What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sector for Nerds, and welcome to another episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars Retro Discussions. Today we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 6, Weapons Factory. This episode was directed by Giancarlo Volpe. Shout out to him, he also worked on Avatar The Last Airbender, another great show, and written by Brian Larson. The cookie for this episode: no gift is more precious than trust. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. A lot of great content going up this year, you guys, so make sure you don't miss it. I continue to have so much fun with these Clone Wars discussions, you guys, and this episode today that we're going to talk about is in my top 5 list of favorite episodes from Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 2. This episode is absolutely fantastic. But you guys, it's been 2 weeks. I know y'all have missed him, and today he is making his triumphant return to the channel. And as per his request, here is my intro for him this week. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Cerebral Assassin, the King of Kings, the game intro guy. Take it away. The final surge. Having learned of Warlord Poggle the Lesser's plot to rebuild a separatist droid foundry on Geonosis, Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker and his padawan Ahsoka Tano prepare to assault this heavily fortified installation. Their mission: destroy the factory at all costs. Anticipating stiff resistance, Republic commanders send Jedi Master Luminara Unduli and her padawan Barriss Offee to reinforce the attack. But time runs short for our interpret heroes as the dreaded droid mill nears completion. Thank you, intro guy. Good to have you back. Those nicknames that you gave me for this week, where have I heard those before? Whatever. The important thing is, Luminara's back this week, folks. Like, yeah, she was technically there last week, like, in the hologram, but she was barely around for any time. This is, like, our big official Luminara return, where she plays a heavy presence in this episode, along with her Padawan making her Clone Wars debut, Barriss Offee. Now, I should be more specific. She is making her animated series debut. For those that have watched the micro series, that episode with Luminara and Barriss defending the Jedi Temple on Ilum is one of my favorite episodes of the micro series. Y'all should watch the micro series if you haven't yet before. Barriss Offee is also one of the Jedi that's in the Chancellor / Jedi Council meeting in Attack of the Clones. She's like the only Padawan that's there. Like at the beginning of the movie when Mace Windu talks about being the keepers of the peace, not soldiers. Look how well that turned out for him. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. And this is like our first time, you guys, that we get to see like 2 Jedi Masters and 2 Padawans like having a mission together in this show. The episode starts out with Anakin and Ahsoka arguing with one another because Anakin just keeps interrupting Ahsoka's briefing, and then it leads to, so you don't trust me to get the job done right.
So you don't trust me to get the job done right. I knew it.
I love how Luminara knew, like, not again, are they?
At it again, are they?
Again, Master?
Let's just say that they have a penchant for playing loose with regulations and rules of command.
But anyway, like, they introduce themselves to each other. The moment that Ahsoka and Barriss first interact, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see the friendship already blossoming here. But Luminara goes over this plan, and she talks about how every Geonosian building has a series of catacombs that runs underneath it. And I did think about that and go, is that the way that they recaptured the planet? Like, is that the whole reason why we're doing this whole thing again? Because if that's the case, then we really should, after we finish this battle, go underneath every one of these buildings and do like a thorough sweep of these freaking catacombs, man. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it too, surely it has to be, because Poggle says in Attack of the Clones, now that I'm thinking about it, that he's gonna send his warriors to hide in the catacombs. So yeah, I guess that'll do it. The point was, alright, we'll send like a few people into the catacombs, they can sneak in to the base, blow up the factory from inside. Anakin and Luminara would distract the droid army, while the destruction of the factory would fall to the Padawans. And Anakin is like very against this. He's like, well, hold on, who decided that? Like, walking into that factory could be suicide. Unlike Barriss, you're not prepared for this mission, Ahsoka. And Luminara's just sitting there like, not to worry, my Padawan is reliable, she can lead them both through. Because, of course, Luminara instructed Barriss to memorize all of the different tunnels and stuff that are within the catacombs, which is very thorough. But as she says, it pays off to be prepared. And so eventually, Ahsoka, it's decided, they go through with the plan, and there's this moment where Ahsoka and Barriss are running off to go off on their mission, And Luminar's like, you feel Ahsoka's not up to the task. Anakin's like, I never said that. And Luminar's like, well, what is it then? And he's just like, nothing. And you can kind of tell right there, like, okay, I kind of think you can kind of get what Anakin's motivations are for why he doesn't want her to do it. It's not that he's afraid that she's not up to the task. He's afraid that something bad could happen to her because this is a dangerous mission. So we get like this battle scene between the droids and the clones and Luminara and Anakin. They're all fighting them off. This is a really great battle scene, and it goes on for a couple different scenes between switching off between that and what Ahsoka and Barriss are doing. And there's a lot of crazy moments in this battle. We get Geonosians trapping the Jedi from above. We get heavy cannons involved. We get ATTEs involved. The destroyers are coming. We get a trooper that runs up with a rocket and blows up like 3 or 4 of them.
Rex, a little help here.
Get up there, trooper.
We're getting to see the, abilities of Anakin on display, of Luminara on display. By the way, I did want to bring something up about the Geonosians. So remember last week I was talking about, well, why do they need speeders if they have wings? It turns out some of these guys don't have wings, at least of designs that I saw in the behind the scenes for this episode. Because Killian Plunkett was talking about like the 2 different designs of Geonosians that they had. And one of them didn't have wings, so I'm like, okay, I get it now. Because I know last week I was asking about that, like, what's going on here? But I believe I've now answered my own question. Thanks, Killian. Eventually, Poggle the Lesser sends the super tanks out against Anakin and Luminara. And, they start getting their butts kicked because they're losing all their cannons, they're losing all their tanks. These things are ridiculous in power. And they're ray shielded, right? Because they tried to shoot the heavy cannons, like, directly at them, and it did nothing. Eventually, Anakin and Luminara lead the tanks out onto the bridge, and they travel underneath it and start planting bombs under it. So by the time that all the tanks get onto that bridge, they blow it up and they all go falling and crashing down. One of my favorite moments from this battle at the start of it is when they're marching towards the droids. And Anakin's like, as long as we destroy the droids faster than they can make them, we'll come out on top. And Luminar's like, I love your simple logic, Skywalker.
That looks like a lot of droids.
Well, it is a droid factory.
As long as we can destroy them faster than they can make them, we'll come out on top.
I love your simple logic, Skywalker.
Here we go.
But meanwhile, Ahsoka and Barriss are out there. They're planting the bombs on the generator. All of a sudden, Poggle shows up with a tank. It was actually kind of weird. Poggle walked into the room to ambush them, and then a few seconds later, walked out of the room to leave. I just kind of questioned, like, what was the point of him being there? Unfortunately, the Geonosians take the bombs. Ahsoka and Barriss aren't able to get them back, but Barriss is able to hijack the tank. And they both kind of decide, like, well, this tank could destroy the generator, but probably means we'll die along with it. And it's kind of like this slow realization of what these two are about to do. And it kind of makes you think like, oh, wait, they're not actually going to die, are they? And what I love so much about this moment in particular, about this episode, is this whole idea that they're about to destroy the factory, right? Like, this is something we've been building towards since, like, the last episode, or maybe even before that with, like, Senate Spy, right? We knew that there was going to be a droid factory and that it needed to be stopped. But instead of this, like, exciting, cathartic moment of, like, yeah, we destroyed the factory, let's go, Republic rules, all this stuff, it's like, did we just lose the 2 Padawans? And I remember, guys, at like 9-10 years old, it was that feeling of like, did these 2 actually die? It's like in the back of my head, it's like, I feel like surely they have to still be alive, right? But everything that was being told to me in that moment was that these 2 are dead. And the other reason why I love this episode so much, and we're going to get into it right now, is the contrast between Luminara's way of handling the situation and Anakin's way of handling the situation. Because immediately Luminara gets down on her knees and she kind of sits there like mourning the loss of her Padawan. Meanwhile, Anakin refuses to believe that they're dead. Like, come on, Luminara, don't worry, they're still alive down there. And she's like, I sense them drifting away. It's like this contrast of grieving, right? There's Anakin's in the denial stage, and Luminara is just in like the full acceptance of what's happening. And I love this because Anakin's just saying, like, we can't abandon our Padawans. I refuse to let Ahsoka die. And he kind of thinks of Luminara in that sense, like, what, do you not care about what's going on right now? And Luminara's like, Anakin, you misjudge me. I too care for my apprentice like you do. But if their time has come, I have to accept it. And then again, there's just Anakin like, I refuse to let this happen. She's gonna find a way out. I still plan on celebrating this victory with my Padawan.
We cannot abandon our Padawans.
You misjudge me. I too care for my apprentice. But if their time has come...
I refuse to let Ahsoka die. She will find a way out.
If my Padawan has perished, I will mourn her, but I will celebrate her as well through her memory.
Well, I still plan on celebrating this victory with my Padawan. In person.
Luminara's really handling this right now how a Jedi should. And I don't think that Anakin is wrong for thinking the way that he does, right? Again, he's obviously in that denial stage, but it's not the Jedi way, you know? This is the kind of stuff that leads him down the path of the dark side. The way that he feels about Ahsoka, like the way that he refuses to let her die, is the same way that he would feel like about losing Padme. And ultimately, that's what leads Anakin down the dark path. So you always gotta think, right, like, man, what if Ahsoka died here? What would that have done to Anakin? I don't think it would have been good. Meanwhile, we do see that Ahsoka and Barriss are indeed still alive, but they're kind of trapped. They can't really move. They're kind of stuck where they are. But she tries to get her communicator working, and she starts to, like, get a pulse going on the communicator, so Anakin's able to pick up on its location.
Well, I'm about to save 2 more.
Wait, I'm picking up a pulse on Ahsoka's comm channel. It's coming from over there.
So they get to the location, Anakin and Luminara start digging them out.
Barriss!
Ahsoka!
But again, just moments in this episode that I love is the very end where Anakin's like, see, I told you we shouldn't have given up on him. I knew they were still alive. And Luminara has this line, has always stuck with me throughout the Clone Wars and just throughout my time as a Star Wars fan. She goes, it's not that I gave up, Skywalker, but unlike you, when the time comes, I'm prepared to let my student go. Can you say the same?
I knew they were still alive. I told you we shouldn't give up on them.
It's not that I gave up, Skywalker, but unlike you, when the time comes, I am prepared to let my student go. Can you say the same?
Well, you know, I think he could probably hit it. No, of course he can't handle it. This is Anakin Skywalker we're talking about. This dude, like, runs on attachments. But it also kind of takes me back to a line that Yoda says in the Clone Wars movie when Anakin first becomes Ahsoka's master. And he says, ready he is to teach an apprentice, to let go of his pupil, a greater challenge it will be. Yoda's words are very much proving to be true, especially in this episode. The Masters and Padawans reunite with each other. It's, you know, nice, happy ending, smiles all around. Luminara says, your master never lost faith in you. All good stuff. I think it's going to be easy for people to sympathize with Anakin and understand where he was struggling in this episode, but I kind of want to stick up for Luminara for just a second, you guys, because I think it's going to be so easy for people to dismiss her. And I don't know what your guys' all thoughts were on this episode when you watched it the first time, or any new fans that watch the show, what you guys think of it. But at the end of the day, for me, where I have to stick up for Luminara is, again, it's not that she didn't care. She did care, but she wasn't gonna let her emotions cloud her judgment. With a little bit of foreshadowing, something happens to Obi-Wan later in the Clone Wars that could easily affect him, but while it does, it also doesn't, because he doesn't let his feelings cloud his judgment. And I think here it was the same way. I thought Luminara handled the situation with the utmost professionalism. She also sympathized with Anakin because, again, it's not like Luminara is this heartless Jedi. And I know there's a scene in season 7 that can make her sound that way, but I assure you, Luminara does care, especially about her Padawan. It's just one of those things where she didn't want to be given that hope. She just was like, okay, if this is what's going to happen, I just have to accept that this is how things are meant to be. This is the will of the Force. The Force really is like its own religion in this show in a kind of way, right? Religion and faith, regardless of what you believe, is a very powerful thing. Because again, like, what would have happened if Ahsoka and Barriss were dead, right? Like, what would Anakin have done? Luminar would have taken that and gone, okay, my Padawan's gone. I'm gonna mourn. I'll probably sit in my room alone, probably crying for a little bit, right? I think Luminara would be lying to herself if that isn't what she would have went to do. But it's one of those that I will mourn her, but I will also celebrate, I will move forward, and I will carry her legacy with me. Whereas Anakin, if he would have lost Ahsoka, that would have been like that could have been a lot of different things happening. He could have left the Jedi Order. He could have, fallen to the dark side a little bit right there and then. Like, Anakin would have spent, like, long periods of time in his room mourning and crying and probably eating ice cream, and it wouldn't have been healthy. I really do respect where Luminara stood in this episode, and I remember even at, like, 9-10 years old, I was kind of, thinking the same way that I did now. I was very much on her side of things. Like, obviously, I didn't want Ahsoka and Barriss to die, but I also, in my head, was, like, kind of coming to the acceptance that they really could be dead. So yeah, you guys, I think that's all I've got to say about this episode. I absolutely love this episode, you guys. Between all of the action that we got, the introduction of Barriss and seeing Luminara and Barriss on screen together, the whole Ahsoka and Barriss sacrificing themselves, and the Masters having to deal with that, I adore all of it. But you guys gotta let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this episode. Did you guys think that Ahsoka and Barriss died when watching this episode? And be honest. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below, you guys. That is gonna wrap us up for today. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video with others to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.
That looks like a lot of droids.
Well, it is a droid factory.
As long as we can destroy them faster than they can make them, we'll come out on top.
I love your simple logic, Skywalker.